Hello everyone, Neil Tappin here from Golf Monthly and welcome to the London Club and this video on the 7 most surprising golf rules that could potentially catch you out. Now these are all rules of golf that you will encounter during the course of a normal 18 holes that there is a little bit of confusion around, and we're going to try to make sure that we clarify the situation so that you don't incur any penalty shots. Now the advice in this video comes courtesy of Jeremy Ellwood. He's a qualified rules official. He'll explain everything you need to know. Right, as I mentioned, we're here at the London Club. Let's get started.
Oh, that's nice. That looks about the right club.
Okay, so this one is all about the information that you are allowed and are not allowed to gather before you play. Now, Jez, I believe you've not broken the rules here.
I have not.
But there's a fine line, isn't there, between doing something that you're allowed to do and then breaking the rules.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, the fine line is that I can't ask you what club you've just hit unless you were my partner in a pairs match.
Yes.
I can look in your bag to try and work out what club you've just hit.
Right, so you can see that I've hit a 4-iron by
Yeah,
noticing it's the only club that's missing.
I was having a good look there to try and work out what you're hitting. Obviously, a shot like this is quite important. What I can't do is actually, let's say your head cover was lying across the clubs or a towel, or you had the bag cover on, I'm not allowed to touch your equipment.
Right.
And that is prohibited under rule 10.2, which is the rule that covers advice. If I were to touch your equipment, I would be penalised under that rule, and the penalty would be the general penalty. So if this was a match, I've just lost the hole. If this was a stroke play competition, I've just incurred a two-shot penalty.
So it's a fine line, just be very careful on that one. Now, something that you are allowed to do, you are allowed to ask what the yardage is. So if I've already got my laser out and zapped the yardage, you're allowed to say to me, so what is that? I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me, no?
I probably would, otherwise that might be seen as being a bit rude. I guess that sort of thing helps speed up play, doesn't it?
It would do, yes. And I personally at the moment don't have a laser, and sometimes that can just help a little bit, but you're obviously not obliged to tell me. I may have to sit there and work it all out for myself. Yeah,
so there you go. That's what you are and are not allowed to do when it comes to gathering information before you play. Okay, so this one is all about something called backstopping. And backstopping is a term that came to prominence, I think probably a couple of years ago, through a few incidents that took place on tour. Jez, what is backstopping?
Well, it's effectively, as it implies, leaving a ball there that could act as a backstop to a shot played from off the green to stop it going as far past the hole as it otherwise might. Okay,
so this ball here, let's say you've chipped up and you've left your ball there.
Yep.
I'm off the green chipping on.
Yes.
You're about to mark that and I say to you, just leave that there, Jez. That might come in handy, stop my ball from, drifting off to about here. That's not allowed.
That is not allowed. As you see in the clip there, I could at that point have said, no, I am going to mark it, and then the situation was dealt with. But in that clip, you'll see that I agree to leave that in there. So the two of us have agreed between us to leave that ball there as a backstop, potentially help you.
So the question is, who gets the penalty?
Yeah.
And how bad is that penalty?
Okay, well, in this scenario, both players that have agreed to leave the ball there as a backstop get a two-shot penalty.
Ouch. So you get a two-shot penalty as well?
I get one as well, yeah. So it really isn't worth it. And it's only in stroke play. So this is a rule. It's 15.3a in the book, and it's only in stroke play.
Yeah, I can see how it doesn't necessarily need to apply in match play because you would always mark that in match play.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to help your opponent,
would you?
So, yeah.
But there is also an important distinction here to make between if my ball was on the green versus if it's off the green. If it's off the green, this becomes rule 15.3a. But if my ball's on the green in this sort of scenario.
Yes, so if both balls are on the green and your ball strikes mine, then you are penalised 2 shots for striking another ball at rest on the green from a shot played on the green, and that's rule 11.1a. But I wouldn't get a penalty in that scenario.
So there you have it, backstopping. It's a little bit complicating. It is a little bit fiddly, but it's one well worth remembering because it could potentially catch you out on the golf course. Okay, so as you can see, my ball has come to rest. And right on the line is a sprinkler head. Now, anyone who's played golf with me before will know that I would be desperate to putt this, avoiding using my wedge to chip it at all costs. But, Jez, I think the surprising thing about the rules of golf here is that you don't automatically get relief in a scenario like this. You don't automatically get to drop away from the sprinkler head, do you? Explain what people need to look out for.
Okay, well, there's a difference here between the sprinkler head actually interfering with where your ball is lying, where your stance is, or the area of your intended swing. So if your foot was on that or your ball was on that, then yes, you do get relief.
So if I'm stood here, fine, or the ball's on it, fine.
But for a sprinkler head near the green that is simply on your line, you don't get automatic relief. You need to check that there's a local rule in force.
Yeah, back on the scorecard, have a look to see. And usually the local rule will be whether this sprinkler head is within 2 club lengths of the green, is that right?
Within 2 club lengths of the green, and your ball is within 2 club lengths
of the sprinkler head,
which must be directly on your line.
Right, so if my ball was here, I wouldn't get relief if it was slightly off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would be hard pushed to justify that.
Yes. So I think the advice here is always check the back of the scorecard in a situation like this. Don't just proceed under what you think is the rules of golf, because it could potentially catch you out. I'm going to have to chip this, am I, Jez?
Well, we need to check if there's a local rule there, which I'm hoping there won't be, so I can witness you chipping this.
Let me have a go with the chip. Safety first.
Actually making a bit of a fuss about nothing, but there we are.
I think I'd have done better with the putter, but as I say, this one's one to keep an eye out for. Be careful with it, it could potentially catch you out. This one is about what happens if you hit a shot and the ball ricochets back and hits you. And I think there are 2 most likely scenarios where that would happen. Thinning one into the face of the bunker, ball comes back and hits you. Yeah. Or maybe you're trying to chip out through the trees. Again, you're going for a risky shot and the ball comes back and hits you.
Yeah.
And Jez, the surprising thing here is what?
Well, the surprising thing is that from 2019 onwards, there is no penalty for that scenario.
Yes.
As long as it's accidental. So if the ball comes back towards you and you do a bit of nifty footwork to nudge it forwards,
you can't do that.
Then that's not accidental. But if it's a genuine, hits the tree, comes back at you, hits you, there is no penalty.
Now, people might be surprised by that, because way back when, I say way back when, not that long ago, this used to be a 2-shot penalty, didn't it?
2-shot penalty until 2008, and some viewers may remember Jeff Maggott incurring that 2-shot penalty when he was, vying for the Masters in 2003. Came back off a bunker face and hit him. So from 2008, it was downgraded to 1 shot, and then from 2019, no penalty if the ball ricochets off something, comes back and hits you accidentally. Yeah,
so in this scenario, if one of your playing partners tries to add a penalty shot to your score, just be sure to tell them, actually, there is no penalty in this scenario. I'm going to have a go at this, Jez.
Try not to thin it into the face.
It's a long bunker shot, so there is potential. Sit.
So you've just wasted one of your finest shots ever for a video.
Damn it. Right, so we've all been in the following scenario where you're preparing to hit a tee shot, Jez, and you're about to go, waggling the club, and then suddenly you nick the ball off the tee.
Yes.
Now, what happens in this scenario in terms of the rules?
Well, after someone has inevitably said 1, what happens in the rules is you do exactly what you've done. You put the ball back on the tee and then play it, no penalty, because the ball isn't in play at that point. And I think we've seen Zach Johnson become a bit of a master at snicking the ball on his practice swings.
Yes.
And there is no penalty for that.
There is no penalty
on the tee
because the ball is not yet in play. But I think the confusion here and the surprising thing here is that you do get penalised for doing exactly this thing if you did it on the fairway, in the rough, bunker, penalty area. Because your ball is in play.
Yeah, your ball is in play, and if you accidentally or anyway move your ball in play, you are penalised. And I think a lot of people think you're not, partly because of the tee thing, partly because, as we'll come on into a minute, the putting green, and partly because they know that you're not penalised if you stand on your ball when searching for it now. I think they've kind of extrapolated from that and thought there's no penalty for accidental movement, but there is. So if you accidentally move your ball on the fairway with a practice swing, or when you're setting the club down behind the ball, you will be penalised, and you must then replace the ball to where it was before playing your next shot.
And as Jez has mentioned, there is another exception, and that relates to when you're on the putting green. And I think in this scenario, it's because the greens are so closely mown, they're so fast in a lot of places. Often you're getting situations, especially on tour, I think, where players were taking their stance, getting set up, ready to play the ball, and then the ball would move, and they would get, previously under the rules, they would have been penalised in that scenario, but not anymore.
No, I think there was a Harrington incident in the Masters, wasn't there, a few years ago, that kind of triggered a call for change, and that change did come into effect. And now, rather than splitting hairs, they've just decided any accidental movement on the putting green is no penalty, whether that's through putting your club down behind the ball and the ball moving, or through catching it on a practice swing.
Accidentally hitting it with practice swing.
And what you must do is replace the ball where it was and then carry on penalty free.
Yes. So there you have it. That's hopefully all you need to know when it comes to accidentally moving your ball on the golf course. Right, so in match play right now, Jez, we would have quite an interesting scenario, I think, because I would be tempted to come along and just sort of try and tap that in.
Yeah.
But you've not given me the putt, have you? So
I haven't, because
why
it's
are we
over
in
3 feet.
Yeah, and I'm likely to miss it.
Yeah.
So why is this a sort of slightly iffy scenario?
Well, you could go ahead and tap that in, if that is a tap in, and you're not allowed to do that in match play because you'll be playing out of turn because my ball is lying farther from the hole.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to say here is that in match play, there's so many different elements to the sort of tactics that go on, the sort of pressure that you're able to put your opponent under. If you just go up and straight up and hit that, you're sort of taking a little bit of the pressure off your own shoulders, because if you make that, Jez, my putt suddenly becomes more difficult, doesn't it?
I would think so, and that is the whole point of the rule. You know, there's that psychological element to match play. You've got a 3-footer, you think you're going to make it 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10. If I make that, that might come down to 6 times out of 10. Yeah. Because suddenly you have to make it.
Of course, in truth, in this scenario, it can create a bit of a sort of frosty atmosphere between players. My feeling is that it's really down to the player who's just hit the putt, i.e. me in this scenario, to make sure that I don't put you in an awkward position. Because if I do hole it, Jez, you have a difficult decision to make, don't you?
Well, yeah, as you say, it depends on a lot of factors, but I could just say, I'm sorry, you've played out of turn. There's no penalty for doing so, other than that I could ask you to play the putt again, and then if I hole mine and you miss yours, suddenly you've lost a hole, and that's a completely different complexion going to the next tee.
Yeah, exactly. So just one to be wary of. Try to avoid finding yourself in that situation in match play. This one is all about identifying your ball on the golf course. Now, Jez, there's certain things here that players may have taken for granted that they are or are not allowed to do that they get wrong, in my experience. My ball is just here. I can't see any identifying marks. I can't see the logo and I can't see my mark on the ball. So I'm going to need to find out whether that is actually my ball.
Yes.
What am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do?
Okay, well, rule 7.3 allows you in this scenario to lift the ball to make a positive identification.
Okay.
But what you must do, and this is what people I play with all the time don't do, in competitions as well as in friendlies, is mark the position of the ball first.
I'm going to use a T-peg. So what you can't do, pick it up, oh, that's mine, and then put it back down again. You need to use a T-peg. Do you have to call over your playing partner to watch you go through that process?
You don't anymore. You used to have to, now you don't. So that part of the rule has gone, but the marking its position first before you lift it remains. And if you fail to do that, you will get a one-shot penalty. Yeah,
ouch. So remember, if you're identifying your ball, always use some form of marker to mark the position of the ball, then you won't go wrong. So there you have it. That's our look at the 7 golf rules that are surprising, that could potentially catch you out. I hope you found that video interesting. If you do have any questions, please leave them below. We'll try and get back to as many people as we can. But that's it for now from the London Club. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.